Cigarettes on cigarettes, my mama think I stink. I got burn holes in my hoodies, all my homies think it stink. I miss my cocoa butter kisses.
Oh, is this okay with you?
No! That is not okay!
Cigarettes got the best of me, even though I didn't smoke one.
Hi, I'm Lori.
Hi, I'm Kendall.
Hi, I'm Chad.
And I'm Tully.
The side effects of smoking go far beyond just the smoker. Secondhand smoke is a real issue for those smart enough not to smoke, but still suffer some of the negative side effects. On average, secondhand smoke causes 7,300 lung cancer deaths in the US annually for non-smokers. And in 2004, it cost non-smokers $2.6 billion in medical care costs associated with secondhand smoke. These are the foundations of the negative externality that Chad will now elaborate on. To you, Chad.
Thank you, Kendall. The definition of a negative externality is a voluntary market transaction between two parties that results in a monetized cost inflicted on a third party who was not part of the market transaction. This relates to smoking, as the market transaction participants are the supplier and the smoker, while the third party is those inhaling the secondhand smoke from the smokers. Monetized costs for an externality are those costs that have a monetary value which can be directly attributed to the negative aspects affecting the third party.
Okay, so while we're talking about the concept of this negative externality with the cigarettes, how could we apply this kind of graphically so I could better understand the concept? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, of course. So let me show you. So we're going to start off with our graph, obviously. And in any of the economy, we always have the regular marginal benefit line, which is in the same place as the demand curve. So we'll label that right here.
Okay.
And then when it comes to the cost of the cigarettes, what the market actually deals with is just the production cost. So we're going to put our marginal cost line right here. The thing with this, though, is the marginal cost is only dealing with the production costs. It's not not taking into consideration anything else. So all this area right under the marginal cost curve, that's going to equal the total cost of production of those cigarettes.
So everything here and here.
Correct. So everything right here.
Okay.
Right? But the thing is, we have that negative externality. And so we have that added cost to that completely unrelated third party. And so that's going to give us a line that's kind of up here, because this space right here is that negative externality. And what we call that on this graph is the marginal external cost. So we're going to label that right here, right?
Okay.
And so I'm sure you're wondering, what's this line mean? Because that's kind of confusing.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so now we have the marginal external cost. We have the marginal cost. So the only logical thing to think of right here is, okay, so we know that this area under the marginal cost is going to be our total cost. This area that's labeled marginal external cost, that's between this line and the marginal cost line, is going to be probably our external cost, right?
Okay.
So then we're dealing with all of society. We're dealing with the people who consume the cigarettes. We're also dealing with the people who are that unrelated third party. So this is going to be our marginal social cost, because it deals with everyone and the effects of cigarettes, whether it's the cost of production or the entire negative effects on those people. So the marginal social cost is going to equal the marginal external cost plus the marginal cost. And so that takes into consideration the cost of production of the cigarettes, as well as that negative cost to people who don't smoke cigarettes, but they're breathing in that secondhand smoke.
Okay. And what about this point here? I know that's equilibrium. And what would this new point mean?
Yeah, so this is going to be our market equilibrium. How I stated earlier, that the market doesn't take into consideration that negative point, that negative external cost. So right here is going to be our market quantity. That's where we're selling it right now in the normal market. and this is going to be our market price. Well, where we actually should be is taking into consideration that external cost because it's affecting the whole society. And so we're going to actually want to be producing here at the social quantity and at this price right here at the social price. So we are actually producing more without taking into consideration that social cost and selling it for a lower price. Selling it for the higher price takes into consideration that external cost on the third party that's unrelated, and we actually should be producing less.
Awesome, thank you. Makes a lot of sense.
So here we have the marginal private cost, and when we apply the cigarettes to our graph, we have basically the consumer and consuming the product, and this would be the line that affects the consumer. And then we also want to add a negative externality, which is our green line right here, which actually affects a third party other than the person that consumes or smokes a cigarette. So right here we have the marginal external cost, which this is the area that affects a social market. And in that fact, we have some areas where it might affect, or we might be able to monetize it with, healthcare, as we talked earlier, how it might affect someone's job, and the fact that if someone's smoking, they can't work in that kind of area. Also might affect an example of an apartment complex. Say someone is smoking in an apartment, or they're not allowed to, but they do, the owner of the apartment complex is not going to be able to sell or rent out that apartment to someone else, losing money. So that's just some ways we can monetize cigarettes with a negative externality.
So this line right here is the marginal private cost curve, and what that explains is it explains the cost it takes for production of that private good, and our private good in this situation is the cigarettes. So this marginal private cost is only taking into consideration the production cost of that private good. Then this marginal external cost, which is the space between the marginal cost line and this green line right here, that is what is the negative externality. The negative externality is the negative effect on that unrelated third party. So this is the cost of that negative effect on that unrelated third party. This line right here is the marginal social cost, and what the marginal social cost is it's the marginal external cost plus the marginal private cost. And so that takes into consideration the effect on the whole society, as opposed to just the cost of production for the cigarettes, only dealing with the people who are involved in the transaction. So if we were to not worry about the green line, our market equilibrium would be at quantity QM and price PM. And as you can see, once we take into consideration that negative externality, we add that negative externality and find our marginal social cost, we should be actually right here at this equilibrium, which is the equilibrium quantity of QS and price of PS. So without taking into consideration the negative externality, we are actually overproducing and selling those products for a lower price when we should be producing this quantity and selling it for a higher price.
So some ways that we can see a effect on a society market is that when we have a marginal private cost, we have this marginal external cost which nobody is paying for or working on. So in this fact, we have the consumer buying a cigarette, and then we also have the society right here, which is the third party. So in some way, somebody's going to have to pay for this area right here. So an example is we could tax the cigarette company, and the fact that they would have to move their line from here to here, simulating a tax, so that there would be a higher price and they would have a lower quantity of cigarettes, so that the society would be at their max benefit instead of having to suffer from the secondhand smoke of smoking.